I call the meeting to order. I will begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. The panel today, to my left is Linda McFadden. To my far left is Brent McIntyre. I'm Robert Buss. The assessor today is Svetlana Shively, and the recording secretary is Belhan Roble. We will be hearing applications for a revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing-in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have. And then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are recorded and will be a part of the public record. Good morning, everybody. Please swear in the assessor and applicant.
Please state your full name.
Svetlana Shively.
And you swear to the event to represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth after that?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your full name.
Yes.
And you have signed the event to represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Good morning, and we will begin with item number 1 on the docket today, 275 Notre Dame. When you're ready.
File number is 19-4822. Roll number 13060039000. Owner is 10007334 Manitoba Inc. We are valuing the property as it stands of January 1st, 2020, based on economic condition April 1st, 2018. This appeal is respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on the evidence and this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of such a property as of April 1st, 2018, $1,298,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property is located northwest portion of the city of Winnipeg on page 14 of my brief. We have airport and hotel subject property. It's located northwest of the intersection Notre Dame Avenue and King Street. The subject size has a rectangle shape of 9,856 square feet. The two-story masonry building was constructed in 1981 with leasable area of 4,321 square feet. 20 square feet. On page 2, we have 2 or 3 more photos of subject property. A subject property currently leased by Robertson College, lease started in 2017 for 4,320 square feet at 4,000 rent per month. So our rent per square foot will be $11.11. On page 4 of my brief, 5 office rent comparables presented. His map location below, and road dot is our subject property, 275 Notre Dame Avenue. You can see all this property close to the subject property, and a few blocks away. My first comparable on Osborne, second on 4, two comparables on Gary Street and York Avenue. All these comparables similar to subject property, and they start years built between 1928 to 1950. It's more older than subject property. Leases started between 2016 and 2018. First line is subject property, and we assess on April 1st, 2019 at $11.39. My 5 comparables show that media came across $14.50. On page 5, presented market and com estimation. So our potential rent with lease with net rent per square foot $11.59. We did apply usable area 4,320 square feet. Our potential rent came across $49,205. For this type of property, we applied 5.5% vacancy loss. We allowed for 2% expense allowance. This expense includes advertising, promotion, professional fees, structure repairs, etc. And also a shortfall allowance per square foot to account for non-recoverable expenses during time of vacancy. It's $7 per square foot. Our capitalization rate, 5.7%, was up 5. Please open page 9, our range. Our city has capitalization rate for offices between 5.55% to 9.05%. For these downtown offices, usually 6.75%. On page 11, more office comparables, but they are not meant to be comparable specific for the subject property, but it showed that our 5 comparables on Portridge, Lombard, Henderson, Notre Dame, Roblin, cap rate range between 5.1% to 6.54%. So we did apply 5.7. It's inside this range. It's supported by our models and comparables. On page 12, we did apply 2% of expense allowance. On bottom, total media of 21 comparable, so the expense allowance was 1.06. So our 2% is reasonable. On page 16, income expense mailer presented. This floor map, this side map on page 19. It was to Amazon building. This more floor map on page 20, 21. On first 20 page, it's main floor map. On page 21, second floor plan. This building had interior renovation for new tenants, Robertson College in 2017. On page 22-23, I took the figures. Shows it. On page 24 shows that before in 2003, this building was converted from restaurant to office building.
If I can just interject here, this is for 276 Notre Dame. This is a building across the street.
These permits, the 22, 23, 24 are not for the property, sell the property. The Robertson Colleges occupies the building next door, their main facility. Sorry, I didn't know what the procedure with that is. I figured something like that.
Well,
Okay. On page 25, photo of my rent comparables. On page 25, my comparables on Osborne Street. It was built in 1949, leased in 2016 for $16. On page 26, my comparables on 4th Street, old building, 1928, leased in 2017 for $12.30. On page 27, another comparables on Gary Street, old building built 1948, leased in February 2018 for $14. On page 28, comparables on Gary Street, building built in 1950, leased in 2017 for $15 per square foot. On page 29, York Avenue, building was built in 1949 and leased current lease in 2017 for $16.43. So we did apply $11.59. It's very well supported by my comparables and fair. Based on evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018, $1,298,000, and that the assessed value should be confirmed. Thank you. Any questions?
thank you. Questions, Mr.
Yes,
Martel?
please, thank you. On your page 2, you have a lease net rent of $4,000. Where does this number come from?
It's from income expenses manual. Please open page 17. We have Robertson College. We started in July 2017.
Okay, so this was purchased in December, it says, 16, so there's no expenses on this statement, is there?
Yes, correct.
So you don't know whether or not, this doesn't indicate whether or not it's a net lease or a gross lease?
I presented what lease exists, what supported to us.
Okay, but it's just, there's no expenses in that statement though, so how would we really know if it's a net
Correct. On
lease?
page 16, you can see purchase in December 2017.
Okay,
No
okay.
info
And I'm
available.
just wondering on page 2 how you can decide that it's a net rent.
I just
based on
presented the rent if you divide 4,000 monthly rent.
Okay,
By
thank you.
square footage, what I showed, what presented to us.
Your comparables on page 4. I noticed, I looked at the pictures further on, I noted they are quite similar in style, the buildings are, but are any of these really in the same market region, in your opinion? Would you say
Yes,
that
because
Gary...
it's the same OFC building, very close to the subject property. It's old building, our subject property, it's more older than subject property, built in 1981. Everyone has 1, 2 floor buildings, and currently is, that's why I presented them.
So you're saying because they're physically the same, they are suitable for comparison?
Correct, it's a physical similar to the subject property.
So on page 6 for your parking comparables, I noticed that you went closer in the area, much closer to the actual comparable.
Thank you for pointing. I didn't finish.
So I'm just
I
wondering.
never talk about parking.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, you can finish if you want.
We have 22 outside parking lots. We did apply $19 net units dollar per stall. Our net operating income came across $23,760. For surface parking lot, we apply 4.5% capitalization rate. So our estimate value of parking lot, $528,000. And page 7, summary of my income for office and parking lots. How we came across $1,298,000. Thank you for pointing.
Thank you. That's good.
Okay, but I suppose back to my question then. I'm just asking why you would choose parking lots that are in the exchange for comparison on page 6, but you wouldn't choose buildings that are in exchange for comparison on page 4. Why did you have to go so far?
On page 4, I have a map. You can see all my comparables. We walk away from subject property. I don't see difference.
So you don't see the difference between.
Closest lease available for us to the subject property.
So there were no leases available in the exchange nearby for you to compare those to?
If it's exist, we will see in your
Okay, thank you.
brief.
Your 5.7 cap, that's model generated, obviously.
Correct. It's also very well supported on page 11.
Based on which buildings would you say? Because I don't think any of these are anything even remotely close to this.
It's showed what capitalization rate was in 2017-16 and on office market.
So I guess if we just look at these 5, I haven't researched 883 Notre Dame personally, but it is, I guess not close, but similar in size and a 6.5% cap. Would that not indicate that this subject should at least be a 6.5% cap?
It's on page 11. My 5 comparables showed range between 5.1% and 6.5%. So our capitalization rate, we applied 5.7 and site is range.
So it's just a range, there's no critical thinking that actually associates the 5.7 to that? It's just
all office building has more bigger range. On page 11, you can see the city of Winnipeg for office building, we have range between 5.55% to 9.05%.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Page 2, you brought forward a $1 sale with a sworn value of $500,000. Have you investigated that sale at all?
It's consideration on $1. You just acknowledge it has.
So you don't sell?
But I was looking for market evidence for rent for this specific building.
So, but you didn't do any further inquiry into this sale, other than you saw that it was $1?
It's here, I acknowledge it.
Okay. And then one last question, just back to the permits for the building next door. Does your valuation change knowing that these permits aren't applicable to this property at all?
Mr. Chairman, can I interject here?
Yes.
This is for this property.
Is it?
If you look at the roll numbers, top of the permit, and if you look at page 22 and 23, they're permits with the tenant named as Robertson College.
Correct, but they are next door in 276 as well. So,
But the roll number,
so is it would the permits go off a roll number or would it be off the address? I'm asking.
I don't know how the addressing system works. Like, this comes from property planning and development.
Okay, so when you're requesting this, she searched by the roll.
276 can't be next door because this is 275.
Oh, right,
It's on one side of the street.
Yeah, okay.
276 is
You're
the
right.
park across the street.
That's true. So it would be that the parking
This,
lot.
this is
Okay.
the building.
Okay, then disregard that then, I suppose, and these are suitable. So there was $150,000 worth of work done into it then. Okay. Let's disregard that, thank you.
I think that's your question.
Yes.
Thank you. See if the panel has any questions. Mr. McIntyre?
The only thing I have is on page 1, the leasable area was 4321, so that must be a typo.
41.1, it's usually for parking lot. It's you can be removed. 1 square foot, how our system works when we do our, on page 7, we have 2 different streams, and for parking
Yes.
lot to make system work, we have to put 1 square foot.
As a parking lot,
Yeah.
no matter how big or small the parking
No,
lot is.
it just how is it to take system to estimate that.
Okay, that was my
Just
only
ignore
question.
it, just one. Yeah, it's a gross floor area and usable area similar, no difference.
I have no further questions.
Yeah, if you will have 2 parking lots, it's 83 square feet, yeah. With 2 different streams for parking, structure or parking surface parking.
Okay, and the owners are reporting the same square footage, 4320 on page 17. Is that correct? Okay. What type of building are we dealing with here? OSC? And where does, on your,
On page 5,
on page 8,
on page 5 you can see income stream for C building. It's
yes.
1 to 4 storage, 1 to 4 building, and sometimes 3 floor in suburban area.
okay. And where does the OFC sort of fall in the chart on page 8? You were talking about it before, but I
Our
missed it.
page 8, we presented downtown A and B, and just to match what was presented by Collier, CBRE, and Cushman. Fairfield, they presented only 2 split for downtown and for suburban area. That's why we showed just this only.
But in the Colliers and CBR section, there's nothing under 6. The only
For
thing I-
example, Collier's has a range from 5.5
Oh,
to
sorry, yes.
7.25 for all offices. On CBRE,
Yes, I'm sorry.
showed 5.5 to 7.5, and Cushman Wakefield showed 5.5 to 7.5 range.
But those are downtown A's.
Yeah, for office, yeah.
Okay,
Full office, actually.
and the parking, where are the parking stalls?
At surface parking stalls outside building on page 15. On middle photo, you can see how it's few car parks here.
So they're leasing out those stalls, you know?
Because it's downtown, so we have parking scheme, because it's very valuable space.
Okay. Is the building itself allowed any, and then, or are all the stalls valued?
We don't have information yet.
Pardon me?
We don't have this information yet because it's not provided by Internal Expenses Mailer, because it's purchased just in December 2017. Full information we expected by next year, this year.
Thank you, that's all my questions. Mr. Neufeld, if you would like to take us through your information.
Yes, thank you.
Please.
On the front page here, we did an income approach with $8. This was purchased in December of 2017 for $500,000. I will get to that. I'm not going to go too far into the income approach because I am going to make an adjustment for that sale. We, however, used an $8 rent because there was no supplied reference information. We do have on my page 3, this is the next mailer that was submitted. With the expenses that were known at that time. This is a gross lease. They pay $4,000 a month rent for the building and parking. and the net operating income is $29,000 in 2018. It was purchased alongside the Lindsay building wasn't properly registered on land titles because it was 2 buildings and 2 assets for purchase. The total purchase was $5.550, and this was allocated for $500,000. The Lindsay building is a 10-story apartment building, and was purchased for redevelopment to increase rents in that building. My income approach, we use $8 based on my rents on page 4. This would be 54 Arthur, 70 Arthur. Similar, bigger buildings, but similar costs generally in that size, whereas they are not necessarily easy to recover all the expenses for them, and they are in the market area as well. But I am going to adjust my request to $500,000 exactly. This was the sworn value for the sale, and it was the amount that was traded for this building. When we did an income approach to show that it was what it was really making, but of course it did sell for more than that, so that would obviously indicate that the building is worth $500,000 that it sold for. And that is all. I also do have supporting asking rents on page 8, which would be just McDermott downtown, and they're not. It's a bit of a hodgepodge of supporting rents, but you can, if you look through it, you can see that it is quite obvious that places in the exchange are renting for less than some buildings on Donald, Broadway, or closer to True North on Broadway or 360 Main. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. See if the assessor has any questions?
I have questions. Do you have any support document for that it's multi-sale?
I didn't bring anything. I just, all I have with me is an email from the owner that what was purchased, and that was an allocation for $500,000 on this.
It's no support document.
Well, it's in your brief, so
Please open page 3. Income expense are finished December 31st, 2018. It's post-reference and should be not took
and I'm not relying on it. I already mentioned that. That's why
on
we're
page 5 through 8, Johnson report from June 2018, it's post-reference.
Are you asking a question, or is that, because I can answer that if you like, or are you just making a statement?
And just statements that it's
Okay,
post-reference.
because this is not
it's
post-reference, it
not
was compiled before the reference date. We have spoken to Mr. Johnson about it.
Please open page 4. We have office rent comparables. Please point your best rent comparables similar to subject properties.
54 Arthur, similar in size and somewhat similar in location. Just $8, and that's what was selected for the income approach.
On page second page.
They, of course, wouldn't have parking associated with that either. So when I get to the 282, there's also an extra 500,000. The difference between that could be an allocation for parking as well. That would be reasonable.
I have a question about parking lot. That is about 20 parking stalls. 22 parking stalls, market value of 2 stalls. Do I take into consideration?
I just looked at the sale and what was paid for the request of 500,000. So they would have considered the parking when they bought it. Yes.
Your capitalization rate 8.5%, correct?
Yeah.
On page 23, we have a cap rate for downtown offices between 6.25% and 7.25%.
Yeah, that's not our cap rate.
Support
That's not our
your
cap rate
rate,
evidence. We
correct?
bring it in because you do, and we bring it in to explain it. I'm not relying on it today, so I don't think there's much reason to go into it. But our cap rates are page 38. and 37 would be more appropriate for this building, based on actual analysis of the sales.
And here between 6.75 and 8% and still not support your 8.5% cap rate?
That's your opinion, I suppose, and you're entitled
He's
to it.
relying more on sales, so the cap rate is really...
On page 54, this open page, it's industrial rates, cap rate, how it's related to the subject property.
Page what, sorry?
34.
34.
34.
This cap rate table is for every property Colliers brings in. We do it generally at the beginning of the year and we make adjustments. It's so much easier to have one file than three.
Okay, on page 38, you have all these retail rate comparables. I have a question about last comparables,
Yeah.
305 Broadway. Do you have any support document for sale in 2016?
Well, I mean, we spoke to the owner. That is our building. We are a tenant of that building. He purchased it for $4.8 million. I didn't bring anything more than that, but we are under oath here.
How did you estimate, you have actual 8.04%, you came across
That's-
9.13%. How
The
you
difference-
came for this estimation?
The difference between that, the actual would be taking the actual income it's making and capitalizing it. 8.04 would be using the city shortfall parameters, city vote vacancy, and probably the 5% at that time.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if Pam has any questions, Ms. McFadden?
You're comparable on Arthur Street.
Yes.
Do you know what age that building is?
It's much older. Yeah, it's
Much older?
Yeah, it's early 1900s. I was focused more on the location factor. That building would have more amenities. However, the cost would be higher, and I just think it was more suitable as a comparison than the buildings on Broadway.
Okay, thank you.
Here.
That's all my question.
Thank you.
Mr. McIntyre?
Let's focus on page 4
Yeah.
again. 54 Arthur appears 3 lines down from the original. 2 different.
It's two different tenants. That's a larger building. Sorry, I should have been more clear on that. That's a multi-tenant building. There it is further down at 54 again. After
So the total is a little larger than the subject. No, I'm just.
yeah, sorry. When I said size, I meant the leasable area, I suppose, for that unit. But yes, that building is not identical to this building, and I'm not going to try to say it is. It's just much more suitable for the area, in my opinion.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. The Lindsay building, you said there was you had an email from the owner saying...
Just how much he paid for each and which
Is that in your brief?
It is not in my brief, no. She asked about it, so I just brought it in. I was going to bring it in as rebuttal, but I didn't have an opportunity to introduce it. It's the sworn value on her page 2 was the allocation for this building, and it also includes, do you want us to see it?
That's right, I think your word.
Yeah, it was, the Lindsay building was bought for $5.150, and it was being renovated, and this one was bought for $500,000. So it was 2 assets being purchased. So there could be a little bit to be said for how it was allocated, but I think this is a very fair way to value it because that's what they purchased it for, and more of the asset was in the Lindsay building.
And when was that sale again?
December 28th, 2017.
Okay, and on page 3 of your brief, this is, where does this come from?
This is the next year's material, so this is post-reference material. Yeah, we brought it in to show
I
the
see,
support
it's
for our income.
December 28th.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, so I'm not relying on it, it's just to show that we weren't completely off by using that income approach because it isn't making that much money.
But it's your assertion that $40,000 that the assessor has shown on her
If you,
thing, you're saying that that's a gross rent?
yes, and if you see on my page 3 on the top, this next mailer, that's the exact same reporting that they did for the year previous, for $4,000 a monthly rent. So if you compare my page 3 at the top to Svetlana's page 17, It's identical, just with a different date for the next year. So they did report it the same way, only the next year, because they had the expenses, they also reported all the expenses with it.
And does it say on this page that this is a gross rent?
No, but what I'm saying is based on the next year, we can see on the mailer that that's the information, and that's just how it wasn't really reported very clearly.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more.
Yeah, go right ahead.
The parking stalls.
Yes.
Are they exclusive to the building? In other words, they're not rented out to people outside of?
Robertson College is using them. So in Robertson College, I think they're using the building as more of a storage. I don't know if they're operating, but they're likely using it for the building next door. It's them using it for parking now.
So it's not like an in-park parking?
No, there's no daily parking. There's no meters. There's no nothing. Everything's 24-hour reserved. There's a sign.
Okay, thank you.
Summation? Any final words?
No, thanks.
Very good. That concludes item number 1, the 275 Notre Dame. Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. And we'll take a short recess. Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. And we will move to item number 2 on the docket today, 77 Main Street. And good morning, Mr. Navarro. And I see there's a preliminary issue on here. We'll start with the assessor. Would you like to explain, please?
Sorry, I just need a document.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please state your full name. And you swear the evidence you present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have you got? Thank you.
Okay, if you would like to explain why you are asking for the deferral.
The assessor requests that the burden of approval be placed on applicant for non-cooperation, section 5.3-36B of the municipal assessment draft, with reduction assessment in order that follows section 5.4.3.2 of municipal assessment draft. On page 18 through page 22, we have income expenses request. What we have requested on page 18, 19, what we requested, through 20. On page 21, it was response we received. On 2021, first page, it's owner occupied, everything gross, fully owner occupied, signature from April 12, 2018. On page 22, owner occupied, zero information to use. That I ask no cooperation. It's owner occupied, but owner still has bills to maintain building, what we ask.
Does it say that in the letter someplace that?
Yes.
Where is that? That it states that
Because letters, we sent letters in April 12. On page 19, we presented what have to be submitted. Annual income received. Okay, it's owner occupied, they check fully owner occupied. Second column, we had annual expenses to maintain properties. No information was provided.
It says somewhere that even if it's owner occupied, it's asking them to send in the expense. Where is that?
Just this 3 columns showed what we asking for on page 19.
Well, I want to read this letter.
Mr. Chairman, I believe there's attachments with this letter, according to the letter.
Okay.
Right?
Some of them.
It's for residential property, yes, we have special attachment.
No, for commercial property. It says instructions for completing questionnaires and legislative authority. These are the forms.
But I think I've seen somewhere before where it says even if it's owner occupied, you are supposed to submit your expenses. But okay, is that your submission? We'll see. Any? Would you like to ask any questions or any questions from the panel on? information.
If there is no income received, then it cannot be reported. Am I?
Yeah, they still have no income, but they still have a hydro bill, water bills, insurance for building, what we're asking for.
And they would be used by the city, even though it's an owner-occupied city? They would
Yes,
be
we will
relevant
use
to the
because
city?
it's how to maintain this type of building, it's everything collected.
Okay, thank you.
It should be fair for each property in Winnipeg.
All right.
So this has happened before in 16 and 17. I see it on page 2 of your brief. It shows incomplete.
Yes, correct. Because it's here in 17.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Navarro, did you like to add anything?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
They haven't supported anything.
Okay, we'll take a short recess, and maybe we'll just go out, you guys. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order, and the board has decided that, yes, we will grant the deferral, and therefore, Mr. Navarro, if you would like to lead off and tell us about the property, please.
This is the Northwest Company Incorporated, 77 Main Street, roll number 12012445000. This is the 2020 realty assessment. And on page 2 you can see a picture of the property. Built in 1911, has a variant age of 1985, 3 stories plus basement. Plan area of 27,440 square feet. Gross floor area of 100,320 square feet, and a rentable area of 97,140 square feet. The site area is approximately 78,178 square feet according to city records. That's about 1.8 acres. The assessment year is 2020. April 1, 2018 is the reference date. The current assessment is $14,877,000. We requested an assessment of $12,102,000. Subject property is a 3-story masonry wall structure presently used as an office building. It is located on the west side of Main Street, south of Broadway. The subject property backs onto the CN main line and is just south of the Ria Rail Union Station. Again, originally constructed in 1911, has had numerous renovations over the years. The assessment and taxation department has assigned a varying age of 1985 to the property. We don't dispute that. Again, some property characteristics that we've already spoken of. There is also a surface parking lot, approximately 59 stalls on the subject site. The contributory 2020 assessment for this component has been set by the city at $1,466,000. In terms of the analysis, the purpose of this report is to arrive at the value used for the assessment for the subject property, with value being defined in the Municipal Assessment Act as the amount the property might reasonably be expected to realize if sold in the open market in the applicable reference year by a willing seller to a willing buyer. Conclusions of this report should not be used for any other purpose other than determining the fair and equitable assessed value of the property. For the 2020 realty assessment, the reference date is April 1, 2018. Again, all properties to be assessed at market value of the present physical asset, but at an amount representing what a typical willing, knowledgeable seller and a typical willing, knowledgeable buyer would have agreed to for such a property in the economic conditions as they exist on April 1, 2018. There are several approaches to value. However, we are concentrating on the income approach to value. Again, the rentable area for this property on page 6 at the very bottom is 97,140 square feet. That is what we are working with, and that is also the amount used by the City of Winnipeg Assessment and Taxation Department. Market rent for this property. The city has used a market rent of $11.98 per square foot. We have used a rent of $11.41. We have a list of comparable properties here that we've used. For the balance of the valuation, we apply the vacancy and expense allowances and classification capitalization rate. Vacancy here is 10.5%. That is the standard rate used by the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department. Shortfall rate of $8.50. We continue to use the 7% non-recoverable expense allowance. And for the purposes of this report, we use the capitalization rate of 7.5%. We turn to page 13, the property report. The way that we've classified these property types, Office A, downtown, we've given a range of 6.25% to 6.50 in terms of the capitalization rate. Office B, 6.75. Office C, 7.5 to 8%, and Office D, 8.5. We also have a rating there for suburban office at 6.25 to 7.50. In terms of the surface parking lot, the market income, we applied a market income of $185 gross per month, giving us a potential of $130,980. Expenses at 45%, giving us a net operating income of $72,039. Again, $72,039. We've given it the same capitalization rate as the building, giving us a market value for the parking lot at $960,520. On page 15, you can see a summary. Again, parking lot income value is $960,520. The OFC is $11,141,839, giving us a total value of $12,102,359. And we've rounded that to $12,102,000. In the appendix, you will see the income expense questionnaire that the city has included. At the very last page, you will see some notes that we also drew from in terms of the Office C standard. And that is my report, and I am open for questions.
Thank you. If the assessor has any questions?
Please open page 7. You didn't identify comparable properties, so I cannot verify it's correct.
Excuse me?
On page 7, you have 13 comparables.
Right.
Only 4 I didn't identify. So rest I cannot verify, correct?
Correct.
You verified only 4 properties. Let's look at it. 395 Main Street. Lease started in 2012. Original lease from when I look into started in 1991 for $14.95. It doesn't support your $11.41 per square foot, correct?
I'm not looking specifically at that property, but no, it doesn't.
Okay, let's keep going. 355 Portridge. Rent started in 2008 for $13.60 per find out. It started 2008. It should be after for time, correct? On page, on your index number 10, 60 Empress. It's currently started in, finding is different. It's a Western Finance Group Inc. occupied building, more than 50,000 square feet for $15.25.
When would that be?
Yeah.
Could you please provide support document because I really look for this for comparables.
No, she's just
Just 1 second, she's just going to ask them to pipe down a little.
Okay, we're good. All right, you have your rebuttal.
Thank you.
Sorry by my
Competition.
Thank you.
We right now on index number 10, 300 Express. And this bill, it's by then you can see income expense mill attached to my table, verification table. Rent was signed in 2017 for $15.95. Index 11, 709 Portridge Avenue. We started 2015 and signed for $11.50. Just to find media for this for comparables, it came across $14.05. It doesn't, it's not supported opinion. $11.41. On page 10, we will talk about half rate. Was requested 7.5% half rate. It's downtown office building. You see Colliers, CBRA, Cashman. They range from 5.5 to 7.25% on Colliers. Also, if you look on page 13, downtown offices maximum 6.75%. It's Altus capitalization rate study. Plus on page 12, we have real sales. First four sales on May, Warsaw, St. Mary and Portridge. It was happened sale in 2017-2018, what I consider, in range between 6.49% to 7.22%. Rest on Portridge in Main Street happened in 2015. It's not relevant to market. In our 50 years, 2018. On page 14.
Excuse me, but is that a statement?
It's not statement because it doesn't support your 7.5% requested capitalization rate, correct? Your evidence, what you provided.
But you're looking at office B or office C?
I look for downtown offices B.
This is a C.
We have same as City of Winnipeg. Altus provide only two discrepancy in downtown office A, B. So we have a range for A, B only, what we're looking at.
I know, but we've provided capitalization rates for office A, B, C, and D on page 13.
Okay.
So our office C starts at 7.5 and goes to 8%. Our office B is at 6.75. So we've classified this as an office C, and so have you.
Okay, another question on page 14. You didn't provide any evidence to support your surface parking lot market?
I didn't, but it's $1,000 off of your net operating income.
And you didn't support your 7.5% capitalization rate?
I use the same capitalization rate as the building.
You agree that capitalization rate for parking would have liter, it depends that it's half liter or no depreciation? that has to be removed for parking lot, so categorization rates should be much lower, correct?
I understand that the 4.5% capitalization rate represents a capitalization rate for an open market standalone parking lot in the downtown area in the best locations. I would say that is not this property.
It's
not open market,
correct?
it's not standalone, and it's not in the best location.
Okay, sure.
Any questions? Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, are we going to deal with this rebuttal first?
If you want to ask questions on that, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions, or one question for sure. No page numbers here, but on the Air Canada return, two of the tenants are not net leases, according to the mailing. This is the one I'm looking at.
It's not lease for Winnipeg.
Well, Ceridian, they haven't checked out net fees.
Yeah, I was talking about second line. It's net lease. It's for 64,590 square feet. What I point, it's net lease and check here. I just point only one lease. I guess it's not highlighted when I printed.
Okay, that was my only question.
Second line, what I was pointing, it's check as net lease.
Yeah, I saw that
And they
one.
have all in annual utilities recovery. It's not lease.
Yeah, but Ceridian isn't either. Ceridian isn't.
This list was not presented by Appellant, so I don't consider it.
Okay, that's my only question.
Okay, Mr. Pat, do you have any questions?
I don't have a question.
Okay, well, then we'll go to questioning Mr. Navarro on his brief. Right? Mr. McIntyre, if you have any questions on...
Surface parking lot. Is it your opinion that this is inferior to other parking lots in the area?
I would say that because of its non-market status, it services the building. It's slightly away from the downtown.
So it's not available for public parking on
I
the
don't believe
weekends?
it is. It services the building, as I understand it.
Okay, that was my only question.
I have no further questions.
On page 13, it's agreed that this is an office downtown C, I believe.
Yes.
The assessment is on. Where does this chart, what is it based on, these sales? It says Alta supplied cap rate. Is there certain...
Yes, so we've applied a summary of a few sales here. Basically, it's our own research, looking at broker reports, combination of broker reports, sales that have occurred in the market, and that's how we've come up with those rates. We've also looked at the previous cycle's rates to look at these also.
Okay. And have you been in this building?
I have not.
That's all my questions, thank you. We'll hear from the assessor now, please.
Should I start from my comparables or my statement first?
Well, the property's been introduced, so just give us the information on
Based
the
on
property.
evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018, 14,877,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed On page 2 more photo subject property with parking lot. It's downtown area, close to Forks. Building has name Gibraltar House, old name, former Gibraltar House. On page 3, 5 office rent comparable presented. First line and subject property, we did assess at $11.98. My 5 comparables on 4th Street, Macbeth, Portrait, Market Avenue, Main Street, a map presented below with red dot our subject property. It's also old building built in 1903 to 1979 on 4th Street. Leases started 2015-2017. With media came across $14 per square foot. On page 4, I represented basement rent comparables across the city with Google map below. It's 10 comparables on Pembina, Osborne, Buffalo, Waverly. It's specific for basement rent comparables. And a building built between 1949, last on Waverly for 2000. All net rent per square foot, media came across $9.03. On page 5, you can see comparable property. 2017 reported rental rate for surface parking. It's very close to the subject property. Rent, it's on Donald, Edmonton, Smith, Fort, Kennedy, Grand Avenue, York Avenue. It's very well supported. Our monthly net units per store, $103.50. On page 6, we start our info for office building. We have 2 premises for upper floor and second premise for basement. Our overall rent came across $11.98. We did apply for 27,140 square foot. For this type of property, 10.5% vacancy allowed. We also apply 2% for non-recoverable expenses. That include advertising, promotion, professional fees, structural repairs, and also shortfall allowance per square foot to account for non-recoverable expenses during time of vacancy, $8.50. Our capitalization rate, 7.05%. It's very well supported on page 9. All our offices range between 6 for 20th 80th percentile, between 6% to 7.3%, all range, all suburban and downtown offices. So we did apply 7.05% for this property. It's fair. On page 7, I didn't mention. So for income subject property office building, stream is 30,249,000. On page 7, income estimation for parking lot value. Subject property has 59 surface parking stalls. We applied $103.50. Our net operating income 73,278. Our capitalization rate for parking lot, surface parking lot, 4.55%. It's low because it doesn't parking lot have liter or no depreciation that have to be from average rate. Our value of parking lot 1 million $628,000. On page 8, summary of parking lot and office building. Together, our estimate market value of whole property, $40,877,000. On page 12, some example of office capitalization rate. There, these specific property are not meant to be comparable, specific for the subject property, but it's very well supported our capitalization rate for office. On page 13, support for our 2% of expense allowance, general 2% expense allowance, that is advertising, promotion, professional fee, structure, repairs. You can see total media of 29 comparables came across 1.06%. On page 15, subject property photos, more photos. On page 23, let's look what was done with property, how good property management. In 2008 was exterior renovation of building, installation only window exterior cladding for Gibraltar houses, which came across $2,301,000. On page 24 was interior alteration, include electrical and mechanical upgrade throughout. It came across it was declared construction value of $5,200,000. On page 25, all the map of subject property, three-story building and parking lot. On page 26, photo of my rent comparables. On page 26, first it's my comparables on 4th Street. Rent was 2017 for $16.35. On page 27, on McDermott Avenue, old building 9003. Release started 2017 for $14 per square foot. On page 28, lease on Fordridge Avenue, building 1910. Lease started 2017 for $21.45. On page 29, on Market Avenue, lease in 2015 for $12.75. It started 2015, we have 2018 reference years, which should be upward adjustment for timing. On page 30, lease on Main Street, started same in 2015, should be upward adjustment. Our rent for $12.50. On page 31, it's basement rent comparables on Bambina for $9 per square foot in 2016-2017. On page 32, two basement rent comparables for $11 per square foot. On page 33, on Buffalo Place, for rent comparables for basement, one in 2018. So it's post reference first line regard because it's middle of 2018. Three leases in 2016 for $9.50 from $9.35. And last comparables of basement space on 34th page on Waverly Street for $12 per square foot. So it's my lease rent comparables very well support our rent rate for subject property. It's fair. So based on evidence in this report with assessor opinions, it's a market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018 14,877,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Navarro?
Yes. If you turn to page 3 of your report, now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 comparables here for Office C. And all 5 of these are considerably smaller than the subject, correct?
Correct, but on 4th Street, you can see it's around 40,000 square feet.
That's still less than half.
Yeah, but it's very well represent the market rent
So
for subject property.
you don't give any weight to the idea that economies of scale exist.
Yeah, on 4th Street itself, it's rent for $16.35, and we apply only a less as $10 per square foot.
Okay. And here, for example, 276 Portage Avenue, $21.45 for 33,502 square feet. How does that support your value?
It's exist rent, but it's to $21.45. It's too high, I feel it. That's why I showed, but I not consider it.
And then your last two, which are at 39,932 and 24,300 square feet, are at 1275 and 1250. But again, we're talking about spaces that are less than half of the property. So again, economies of scale don't work here.
And it's lease in 2015. It should be time adjustment upward for 3 extra years to compare 2018. So it will be much higher than $12.75.
But again, you feel that these sales represent or support your rent?
Yes, it's a short market for this type of space. It's evidence of the market for this type of space in city Winnipeg.
Okay. Now, can you turn over to page 4? Now, can you tell me whether this space in our building is storage space or whether it's actually office space that's been leased in basements?
What I represented here, it's a basement rent reported to us.
Okay, but you classified the...
I didn't look specific for similar buildings. I just look for a basement rent exist in city of Winnipeg across.
Okay, but you classified premise ID 26586 as storage, office, RET, mezzanine, I assume. Now, is this actual office space that is leasable as office space, or is it storage space?
It's all together. For me, it's just our inside classification, but this specific premise, it's a basement area. Please open page first of my brief. Basement area of 18,000 square feet, what we posted. This building owner occupied, full building occupied, so we use full usable area basement.
But you can't tell me whether it's being used as storage or office space.
I don't know how it's, what is inside because I didn't been in this building, but I can see permit from 2013. It was for basement foundation retaining voltage. So size of existing 3-story commercial building. So basement is usable. And our record shows that the basement has a high, 15 foot height. It's full basement with heating. So it's full basement usable space.
So you consider it as office space?
Yes. It's not office space, it's basement space. That's why it's rent
Okay.
on my second premise, much low, $8.64, but very well supported by my comparables. Risk media across $9.50. It's reasonable and fair.
Now, I see here that on page 4 that you have 226 Osborne Street North as one of your property comparables for basement finish. Have you been inside this property?
I didn't get in basement.
Were you aware that the basement is actual office space?
That's why it's in my comparables we can see that it's $11 high. We use only less than $9 per square foot. It's came into consideration.
And these office space rentals, this basement space, these are all from suburban areas, I assume?
Yeah.
Except for Osborne, which is
Yeah.
close enough to the downtown.
Yeah, it's what leases I found. That's why I say it's whole city. It's suburban offices, just only Osborne Street close to the subject property.
Okay. But you can't tell me whether any of these properties are being used as office or as storage?
I didn't have time to investigate it. I just was looking for market basement rent.
In terms of your parking income, your comparables here, on page 7, would you see that our net operating incomes are quite close to each other?
Repeat, please.
The net operating income for the parking, are they fairly close to each other?
On page 5, all my surface parking mark presented. We can see its range stabilized net operation income per stall per month, range between $100 to $255.22. So we did apply $103.50. It's fair.
Would you turn
Very well
to,
supported.
would you turn to my page 15? Can you see the net on the parking lot, 72,039? Are they close?
Yeah, it's close.
So the issue is the capitalization rate on the parking lot.
Correct. And parking lot doesn't have extra depreciation. It just surface parking. It's not parking structure.
Can you explain that comment? It doesn't have depreciation.
A surface parking lot have little or no depreciation.
Because there's no physical asset there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, getting on this topic of capitalization rates on parking lots, is this a standalone parking lot?
Please open page 2. You can see photo of this parking. It's close to subject property. It's on subject property side, but it can be rent. It's very good location, close to Forks in downtown.
And you would say that this is a
Right
good
now,
site to
it's
develop?
used for subject property owner,
Now,
but it can be standalone parking lot.
would there be any risk to the parent property, the building, if it sold off its parking?
No answer.
No answer? Would there be any costs associated with selling the property, the parking? Would you have to subdivide it or get a variance for it?
I estimate just existence of office building and parking lot.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. Mrs. Pan, any questions?
So you've given this property a 7.05 cap rate. I'm having a little problem with the justification for that, given the property previous was a little older, hadn't had all the renovations, in a slightly more difficult area, but it has a cap rate of 5.7.
Because we have two different qualification for office. This O of C, it's old building, compared to of S. When building small, office building, it sell faster and more high sale price. So in our case, to put our capitalization rate, we analyze all sales similar properties across whole city. So if building small building or C previous, it's usually high price sale that bring that why capitalization rate down. So it just wholesales dictate us what capitalization rate.
So it really has to do with the size of the building more than
Size
anything
of
else.
building and quality of building.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Because we have to run model, we analyze wholesale across whole city.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McIntyre?
I have to get my head around this basement. If you want to turn to page 17, I think you indicated the basement height was 15 feet.
Yeah, it's in our records, yes.
So in other words,
Because it's old building, built in 2010, they usually has high
yeah, no,
ceiling.
that's fine. So a 15-foot ceiling would have to extend, would you not agree, that that first row of windows is part of the basement? It's on page 17.
17 better here.
Thank you.
If you look at the first row of windows, and I presume that's the basement area, right? Because this is only a 3-story building.
Yeah, 3-story building, yes, correct.
So there's a basement underneath this too? Well, but there's no windows.
But basement exists in this building, our records show it. Yeah, 3 levels, it's upper floor.
So the 2 upper floors.
Three levels upper floor for 82,320 square feet. And we have basement for 80,000 square feet, 1 level on this building. It's without, I don't see any window, right?
And you haven't inspected this building?
No.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. All my questions have been asked, so.
See, may I direct another question to the assessor? Please.
Please
Thank
go
you.
ahead. You
Oh,
have your
that's up to
turn.
the chair.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The building is demised for a single occupancy, correct? Does this also provide any additional risk?
No answer.
Any need for summation? Now that concludes item number 2.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask, in our package, we have an office non-recovered expense study and a rebuttal to the expense study. Are we going to deal with that at the end of all this?
Well, it's who submitted it. We'll ask
Both.
them.
But nobody's talked about it yet.
If you want, we can deal with it at the end. Yeah, I have no
Up
issues
to
with
the
that.
chair.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we've all heard the non-recovered expense.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go into too much detail, but maybe at the end there can be some summation if you'd like to, either party would like to touch on that, that would be fine. We'll move along to item number 3. which is 379 Cumberland Avenue. When you're ready, please.
File number is 19-2215. Roll number 13052758200. Address at 379 Cumberland Avenue. Owner is Avron Enterprise Inc. We are valuing the property as it stands on January 1st, 2020, based on the economic condition April 1st, 2018. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on the evidence in this report, in this assessor opinion, that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018, $1,260,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property is located northwest portion of the city of Winnipeg on page 12 of my brief. You can find subject location map and air photos. It's located on page 13. You can see that it's northeast of the intersection Carlton Avenue and Cumberland, Carlton Street and Cumberland Avenue. The subject side has an irregular shape of 6,386 square feet. The two-story Mason tree improvements was constructed in 1956 with leasable area of 8,434 square feet. On page 2, income expense will provide us with subject property lease by Crosstown Dental Laboratory. It's booked in 2014 for $7.97. 2014 last lease, it's 4 years before our reference date. On page 3, 5 lease comparables with the subject property provided is marked below. Our first line is subject property. On 2018, we assess it's $11.63 per square foot. I did present the leases of Queen Elizabeth, Gary Street, Fort Osborne, Hargrave. It's old building built between 1928 to 1989. For my leases between 2006, started 2016 and 2018. Media of my leases came across $14.63. On page 4, subject property income stream presented. So leasable area 8,434 square feet. We did apply overall $11.63. Our potential rent $98,046. For this type of property, 5.5% vacancy loss was allowed. We also allowed for 2% not recoverable expenses that include advertising, promotion, professional fees, structural repairs, and also shortfall allowance per square foot to account for not recoverable expenses during time of vacancy, $7 per square foot. Our capitalization rate is 7.2% for this type of building. The variable support on page 6. It's our city 2080 percentile. All office building range between 6% to 6.3%. We did apply 7.2%. It's also our range supported on page 9 for specific example. 5 office building was sold in 2016-2007, between 2016 and 2018. It is 5 properties, or Portage, Lombard, Henderson, Notre Dame, Roblin Avenue, range between 5.1 to 6.54%. On page 10, we did presented table illustrates the accuracy of model and substantial the 2% not recoverable expense allowance used in Assessed Taxation Department mass appraiser model. You can see 29 comparables, non-recoverable expenses, media of 1.06%. On page 15, statement of rental provided by owner. On page 17, I posted a term which showed what recently was done with these properties. Renovation, interior alteration for tenants, existing tenants, cross town dental, this started in 2014. Okay, original this tenants was moved in 2018, and the interior renovation was done, and they recorded that another lease started in 2014, new lease started. On page 18, interior renovation was cost 480,000. On page 19, office rent comparables with photos. First comparables, Queen Elizabeth Street, leased in 2018 for $15.25. On page 20, comparables on Donald, lease started 2016 for $12.50. On page 21, on Guy Street, we started in 2018 for $40. On page 22, building on 4th Street, very old, 1928, we started in 2017 for $12.30. On Osborne Street North, page 23, we started 2016 for $16. On page 24, for Hargrave Street, comparables, we start 2016 for $16. My list comparable shows that our $11.63 overall is fair and reasonable. So, based on evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018, $1,216,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Looking at your comparables starting on page 19, and with reference to the picture of the subject, you feel that the first comparable, 28 Queen Elizabeth Way, is comparable to the subject?
It's this lease for $15.25 gives a superior property to subject property. We apply less than $12. It's taken into consideration.
Okay. And 5 Donald Street, again, we turn over on page 20. Again, is this building comparable to the subject?
Donald Street, check. It's, I try to find leases close to the subject property that exist in 2017, 2016.
So is River and Osborne close to Central Park?
Please open page 3 on my brief.
Yeah.
We can see where is Donald Street and subject property. That's why I provide all map for location.
And 490 Hargrave, that is built in 1988.
Yes.
Again, do you think this is comparable to the subject?
It's a 2-floor building. Please open page 2. Look on Let's look on subject property. Page 14 and page 24. On page 14, it's our subject property, Mazdovre 2-floor buildings. This less as 9,000 square feet. And on page 24, we can see 2-floor building. I feel it's very well. It's very well support market.
And your lease information on page 2, that is strictly a book lease. This is owner occupied, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the subject property sold in 2007 for $465. Did you look at that sale?
It's a very old sale.
It's about 10 years old from the reference date, correct?
I acknowledge this, but it's no how going to under consideration. It's very old sale.
So it's about a 10-year difference.
It's 11 years difference in market rent change and market evidence.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
I have no question.
My question actually been answered.
Okay. On page 15, the owner's reporting income, but I just heard Mr. Navarro say that, or you said it's owner occupied?
Yes, it's owner occupied
Totally?
because it's check mark fully, but we still have the short lease on page 16. We can see Cross Dental Laboratory has lease started 2014 and end 2019. Yes.
But that's the one. No, okay. On page 14, is this a picture of the subject property?
Correct.
So the bottom picture, that small little building next to it, is that a part of this property? No? Yes? Confused.
Because on page 13 we have it is purple line, it's subject property, so small building is, it's not part. 375, it's belong to another property.
Okay.
Plus, this building has regular shape. It looks like one building for entrance, but it's actually two construction costs attached.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you. We'll hear from you, Mr. Navarro.
Okay. We can have a look at the picture on page 1. That is the property that we're dealing with. The property beside is, I'll just add some commentary on that. This may not be just it is actually, has been purchased by the property owner, but they're just waiting for a lease to run out so they can tear it down and use it as parking.
The building next door?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's an older two-story building, OFC. We've classified it as an OSC. It's in the downtown, in Central Park. again, constructed between 1956, we have 1962 also, and it's 8,434 square feet. The zoning is downtown living. The predominant uses in downtown living zoning are residential. I don't know what this building was in a prior incarnation, but it looks almost like it may have been an apartment building at one time. If we move to page 7, we've elected a rent of $10.65 for this property, and we're using, again, OFC comparables. 8,034 square feet, or 8,434 square feet at $10.65 gives us a value of $89,822 for income. We've applied a vacancy of 10.5, and that is consistent with the OSC classification. Shortfall, $8.50. We've gone with the same unrecovered expenses, and in terms of the capitalization rate, we've used a 7.75 capitalization rate. If you turn to page 13, we've gone over this chart again previously. So our downtown C ranges between 7.5 and 8%. So we've gone with a 7.75 capitalization rate. We feel that this property is not in the best location. It's also slightly older, so we give it a slightly higher capitalization rate. If you look at page 14, you can see the income summary. And again, we've produced a net operating income of $67,236. We applied a 7.75 capitalization rate, giving us a value of $867,562. So we're asking for $868,000. In the appendix, we've also included the income expenses that were submitted by the owner. And as you can see on page 1 of 2 of the income expenses at the very far left, top corner, under owner occupier, it says fully. It's been checked off. Following the income and expenses, we've also included rent comparables here for OFC and BOMA standards. I am open for questions.
Thank you. Let's see if the assessor has questions.
Page number 7. You can see market rent comparables with media $11.25, correct? It doesn't support the $10.65. And like what's on lease start date, you would agree that lease rate generally increase over time?
I would say that this property is inferior to those. So that is the reason why I've adjusted the rent.
It is true that lease rate increase over the period of time between 2014 to 2018?
I would assume so.
Vacancy. You apply 10.5% vacancy. Do you have any evidence to support your vacancy rate?
It is the vacancy rate that is actually supplied by the city's own guidelines on income and expense properties. So while I haven't supplied that report, it is coming directly from that report for OFC.
Same with shortfall $8.05 per square foot for vacant space. Do you have any support document for it?
Again, that is coming from the same report.
Your cap rate 7.75%, correct? 7.5%.
Yeah.
On page 10, we have a table about cap rate for downtown suburban offices. It's range between 5.5 to 7.5, correct?
Page 10?
Yes.
Just let me turn there. Okay, 5.5 to,
7.5%.
which column is that?
It's all 4 columns. It's just capitalization rate for all offices space.
Okay, that is for downtown A and B class,
And suburban,
and suburban A and B.
highest is 7.5%, correct?
The highest is 7.5 for suburban B, yes. This property is not located in any suburban area.
And highest capitalization rate for downtown offices is 7.25%, correct? Presented by CBRE 2016.
We should be looking at 2018.
Let's open page 12, the briefs. You have real capitalization rate comparables.
That's right.
First 4 comparables, sale in 2017-2019, this range between 6.49% to 7.22%. It's correct. And your
Excuse me, what?
your 4 comparables, cap rate comparable sales in 2017-2018, very good represent market evidence.
Well, I think you should look at the type of properties, though. For example, the Office C class on 259 Portage has a capitalization rate of 8.87. The 896 Main Street is in a suburban area, but we've given that 7.22 capitalization rate. But again, the age is 1987. .1046 St. Mary's is also in a suburban area. It's got a 6.95 capitalization rate, but it has an age of 1998.
And your comparables on Portage Avenue in Main Street was sold in 2015. It's not good indication of market capitalization rate for subject property 2018, correct? Effective years.
200 Portage?
Your 4 and 6 comparables. Sale in 2015, it's not best represent 2018 market capitalization rate, correct?
Well, I would
It's
say
3 years
that
difference.
the capitalization rate is a point in history. 8.94 occurred in 2015. There could be some compression there, but minimal. I mean, this is what our capitalization report is saying, that the compression has actually been very small, if any. So it wouldn't be far from that.
Okay, no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
I have no questions.
I have no question.
You're calling this an OFC, and the assessor has got it down as an OFS.
So I'm not so much, I am disputing the rent, but I think that is just a numeric difference of opinion that we have on the rent. She is drawing from, I believe, downtown rents that have been categorized. No, actually some of these are in suburban areas also. The issue here is, where is the property and where is its competition? We feel that this property is competing in the downtown area, so it should have either an A, B, C, or D classification. Now, in terms of this one, I kind of struggled because I actually thought it should be a D. I don't think it's a very good term. It's not your investment grade property.
And it's not an A or B, so.
Then, I even question whether it's a C. That is what we went with. However, given its location, the bigger issue is the vacancy, where it's competing, and what market vacancy should be applied to that area, and what capitalization rate should be applied to that area. So the city's model, in one sense, may take rents from close by, or it may not, but in terms of its overall vacancy shortfall and capitalization rates, those are coming primarily from suburban sales, which are occurring outside of this area. This property is clearly not in a suburban area.
Okay, so therefore it's C. Okay, thank you.
May I make comments about C? Reclassification of office property or C property, usually 3-story or more, average to below average building quality, below average material and finishes, a predominantly located in downtown area. But it's 3-story or more. Our subject property only 2 stories. That's why we apply OFC.
Do you have the, for the OFC on that page as well?
Yes,
Could you read the
OFC.
OFS, pardon me. Could
All
you read the
building quality grades, all office build predominantly located outside the downtown area, mostly 1 or 2-story building, may include building overall 2 stories. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
can I respond to that? If we look at the assessors, page 20, that is an OFS.
Yeah, mostly 1 or 2-story buildings, but may include building over 2 stories, yes.
I would say that would also work in reverse if we're looking at OFC.
Yes, okay, that's good. I don't want to argue that. Thank you for building material. Simply asking the opinions. Okay, that concludes Cumberland, 379 Cumberland, and we'll move on to item number 4, which is 361 Hargrave. When you're ready.
File number 19-2478, roll number 13052819000. Owner is Trade Holding AT Corporation. We are valuing the property as it stands of January 1st, 2020, based on the economic condition as April 1st, 2018. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 4th, 2018 is $10,364,000. In that, the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property located at the downtown. It's located at northeast corner of in the intersection Ellis and Hargrave. On page 14, subject location map and subject photos. The subject side has rectangle and rectangle shape of 22,879 square feet. the improvements, 5 floor. Sorry, just got a cramp in the back of my leg. Maximum 5 floor improvements, because view,
Okay, sorry, carry on.
original 9022. It has usable area of 79,877 square feet. Building is film exchange, formerly film exchange buildings, a special name. On page number 2, more photos presented. Building occupied by province of Manitoba. Its lease, existing lease in 2015 for 64,370 square feet at $23.90. On page 3, my brief, I had presented 8 rent comparable for office space. First line in subject property. For 2018 effective years, we did apply $10.11 per square foot average for full leasable areas around 80,000 square feet. My 6 comparables built between 1965 and 1982. All leases started in 2017 and one lease in 2018. It's smaller square footage, biggest on Portage, last comparable for 48,000 square feet, and rent between $11.50 to $21.75. So my media came across $15.71. All map of my comparables on map below. Subject property has 10 parking lots, surface parking lots on page 5. I presented 2017 record rent rate for surface parking. We did apply $76.50 monthly net unit dollar per stall. For my 11 comparables, it's ranged between close $58 to $123 per square foot. And also subject property has a parking structure for 28 stalls on page 6. For this parking structure, we did apply $138 per monthly per unit per stall. My comparable, 16 comparables of parking structure in 2017 reported rental rate between $84 to $152.44. Let's come to page 4. Let's estimate viable income stream for office building. Leasable area 79,885 square feet. We did apply $10.11. Our potential rent for office space $807,000. For this building, we applied 9% vacancy loss and we allowed for 2% not recoverable expenses. That include advertising, promotion, professional fee structure repairs, and also shortfall allowance per square foot to account for not recoverable expenses during time of vacancy, $11 per square foot. Our capitalization rate $6.75%. On page 8, let's look on our capitalization rates for office building. For downtown office building, it's between 6% to 6.75%. We apply 6.75% for subject property. And also our capitalization rate table is supported by Collier, CBRE, and Cushman Wakefield. For this type of property, downtown B, maximum going to 72.5%. On page 11, capitalization rate evidence specific part property was sale. Office building was sale on Portage, Lombard, Henderson, Notre Dame, Roblin in 2017-18 with range 5.1 to 6.54%. That also its specific example to support our range of capitalization rate for office space. On page 12, presented table illustrate accuracy of the model and substantial the 2% not recoverable expenses allowance used in assessment taxation department mass appraisal models for 29 comparables, total media of not recoverable expenses $1.06%. So our income stream for office space estimated by $9,498,000. On page 5, surface parking lot value of 10 stalls presented. We did apply $76.50 per stall per unit per month. Our net operating income $9,180. Capitalization rate for all parking, surface parking across city 4.5% for downtown. Our capitalized value for 10 parking lots $204,000. On page 6, estimation value of parking structure of 28 stalls, heated parking structure. We did apply $138 monthly net units rent dollar per stall. Our annual rent $46,368. For all parking structure, we apply 7% capitalization rate. So our capitalized value of $662,000 value of structure, parking structure. On page 7, all value summary of three streams presented. So our estimate market value of all subject property $10,364,000. Let's see what I presented. On page 17 through page 22, income expense mailer attached. On page 19, when we look at revenue-based rent, it's for this built property, $1,123,000 roughly. Can you see it? It's very good. And our revenue for office space only $8,700. Also, you can see revenue for parking monthly. It will be here. Just more or less $90,000. We did revenue for parking right here on page 7. Less is 10,000, a little bit more is 46,000, that's only 56,000. Also, please look on page 21. Owner provided on expense matter, they show the net income as 676,000. Assessment taxation department estimate for 697,000. It's very close, reasonable. On page 22, we see who occupied building. So major 64,370 square feet. Rent for $70.45. It's a step rent. And owner occupied on vacant space 7,100. It's owner occupied space. Base rent for leasable area and first, second, third, fourth, and fifth floor leasable area of 64,370 square feet. A base rent of $23.60. On page 23, start of my photo of my comparables. First comparables on St. Mary Avenue, lease started in 2018 for $16 per square foot for the building. On page 24, Broadway building built in 1976, lease started in 2017 for $40.87. To lease on Hargrave Street on page 25, started 2017 between $11.50 and $14 per square foot. On page 26, on Portridge Avenue, lease started in 2017 for $16 per square foot. On page 27, building on Broadway, built in 1976, lease started in 2017 for $15.41. On page 28, building on Graham Avenue and built 1982, this lease started 2017 for $21.75. Comparables on page 29, or Portridge Avenue, lease started 2017 for $16 per square foot. We did apply $10.11 per square foot, that's it's fair, much lower than my comparables. Based on evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of such a property as of April 1st, 2018, $10,364,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. So, any questions?
Thank you. Let's see if Mr. Navarro has questions.
Yes. On page 2 of your report, you've got here under the property leases, a lease net rent of $23.19, Her Majesty the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I'd ask you to turn to page 19 of your report.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any recoveries there?
Yes, we have recoveries. We have operating cost recovery. It will be $371,000 roughly. We have property tax recoveries. So all total revenue with all recoveries.
So would you say that this is a net? Would you say that this is a net rent?
It's reported $23. We apply $10.11.
So you're using a market net rent, correct?
Yes, it's
Okay.
market. And market shows it should be increased already. I
The market
see it.
shows that it should be increased.
Yes, my comparable shows it.
Are you familiar with federal government leases?
They usually gross lease,
And are you aware that this is a federal government lease?
yes. And usually gross lease and net lease difference in 50%. If you divide 23 by 2, it will be,
You had an opportunity to review a lease?
I don't have lease. Do you have?
I don't, but
I don't have either.
I would say that this is probably not a net lease.
If you look for $23, yes, it shows that it's a gross lease.
Now, I'm going to look at your comparables on number 3. Now, 330 St. Mary, you feel that this is a fair comparable in terms of the subject?
In our system, it's property OOB, property type. Please look on
So
my
you typed
page.
it as a B?
All my comparables will be similar to such a property and how we,
Understood. Did you have an opportunity to inspect this property?
I didn't inspect, but I've been inside this building. It's OB building
You would say that it's an OB building
in our system, yes.
in your system? In your opinion?
It's classified by Assessment Taxation Department ISB properties,
Okay.
to be correct.
Did you count the parking lots?
Subject property has indoor heating 28 parkings, outdoor surface parking 10.
Okay. Did you get a chance to count those?
It was counted before me.
Okay. And again, you've gone with the same model capitalization rate for both parking, underground and for surface. These are the model cap rates.
It's model cap rates across the city for surface parking 4.5% capitalization rate, for structure building parking 7% across.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
Yes, if you turn to page 3, all of these comparables, the subject is located in Central Park, correct?
Correct.
All of these comparables are located in different areas south of Portage, correct?
Correct.
My question is, were there no comparables in Central Park related to this building?
No. It's best what I find for 2017-18 leases. In specific B-class buildings.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. Ms. McFadden, please.
I have no further questions.
On page 2 of your brief, so are we dealing with all of the buildings that we see there?
On page 15, you can see better.
Page 15.
This one. 361, 364.
Do you know which building is the parkade? There's a indoor parking here we're dealing with?
I don't have good photos here.
Pardon me?
It's, I think on page 15,
Yes.
on bottom, we can see a purple line of subject property. It includes 361 Hargrave and 365 Hargrave. Building, 2 buildings.
Okay, so getting back to the
And
picture.
go back to the building behind, we can see surface parking here. It's surface parking. And
Okay.
we inside, 28 parking is structure under buildings. Basically, yes.
So getting back to page 2, where is the surface parking is behind there, you're saying, right? So we're dealing with not with the reddish building, that's something else. We're dealing with the brown brick building and the other two?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
To the left, to the right.
okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Can I have one more question?
I'll
Yes,
explain
go
it during the thing.
Hey?
I'll explain it during my, please ask your question. I shouldn't have interrupted.
So, the parking lot, are you saying this is the parking lot outdoor?
Yeah, it's here.
Oh, there, okay.
Only, and we have only 10 still here.
Okay, thank you, that was it.
I'm just going to take you through I've walked through this building at least twice. The most recent time was just a few months ago, but prior to that I also inspected it with the assessor, Jan Trojan, just a couple of weeks before she retired, I believe. So we walked through this entire building, 361 Hargrave. If you can see the front picture on my brief on page 1, there is you'll see a picture there on the side of the building. That is the older portion of the building. So this is essentially 2 buildings in one. Now, the property just north of it, which looks like an orange brick building also, was built, I believe, in 1990. They are joined together. Now, the surface parking lot is behind the newer portion, which is the portion to the north, and the underground parking is also underneath that building. Now, again, this building was built in 2 stages, 1922, 1990. You enter it actually in through the section that is called 361, which is the older portion. There's not much there in terms of a lobby. You just walk in and you're in the building. In terms of overall amenities, there's not much for amenities to this building. It's a very basic building. The newer section kind of matches the older section, and I was led to believe from speaking with the property manager that it was specifically constructed to keep with the period of the older building, because the older building is actually a historic building. So on picture 2, you can kind of see the physical separation there, and it runs around the middle of the building. So effectively, half of the building was built in 1922. The other half, the northern half, was built in 1990. Right behind the newer section, there is a small sliver of land there. That is where the surface parking lot is. Now, just to correct the assessor, I was again there recently. There are not 10 stalls there. There are 9 stalls there. I counted those recently. Again, this is a 5-story office building. The subject is classified as a Grade 3 historic building, listed in 2002. The subject is assessed as a Class B office building. The property was constructed between 1922 and 1990 and has an effective age of 1990. The improvement has 79,885 square feet of leasable area. It's zoned in the multiple use sector, and it has a site area of 22,879 square feet. In terms of the approach, if you turn to page 8, we've gone with a market rent of $10, a vacancy rate of 10.5%, a shortfall of $11, non-recoverables of 7%, and a capitalization rate of 7.5. and I will explain my reasoning for that as we move on. Again, turning to page 13, we can see the capitalization rates. Office C, we give it a 7.5 to 8%, so we've given it a 7.5%. In terms of parking rates, we have parkade rates and surface parking rates. So the median monthly unreserved parkade rate is $180. The median unreserved below ground rent is $225. Now, I will check just to see if this one is on there, Hargrave 365. So the rent for this is actually $180 per month. In terms of the surface parking lot, again, the median is $185. We turn over to page 15. Expense ratios. Typical expense ratios are 45%. Actually, I've spoken to the assessors regarding the models. They also use an expense ratio of 45% for both parkade and for surface parking lot. In terms of the gross income for the parkade, we have 28 stalls at $180 per month gross. That gives us a gross income of $60,480. We've applied a 45% expense ratio to that. We've gotten a $33,264, and we've applied a 7.5% capitalization rate, giving us a value of $443,520. In terms of the gross income for the parking stalls, we have 9 stalls at $165, giving us an income of $17,820. Expense ratio of 45%, that gives us $8,019 in expenses. Net operating income $9,801. 7.5 capitalization rate of value $130,680. On page 16, you can see the summary. The income value of the parking lot, the surface parking lot, $130,680. Parking structure, $443,520, and the OSC, $7,954,395, giving us a total value of $8,528,525. Go into the appendix, you can see the income and expenses provided by the owner. The assessor has already gone over those. If you flip past that, you'll find a chart with OFC rents in there. Beyond that, we've also quoted the Johnson report for December 2017. And if you look at the bottom where it says Class D, 365 Hargrave, they've listed the net rent at $10. That is the rent that we went with. We don't feel a need to adjust that. Again, we're fairly close to what the city has in terms of their market rent. I think what is even more telling is they classified this as a Class D. Beyond that, we have a report of the roof condition, and also, again, the BOMA report on classification of office buildings. I am open for questions.
Thank you. I think the assessor has any questions?
Yes, page 3 of pension report. You did request $10 per square foot. You doesn't provide any support market evidence.
Actually, I did.
But
Johnson report. It is after the city rents that I quoted here. You'll see a thing that says Office Vacancy Report, Winnipeg, Manitoba, the Johnson Report, December 2017. Class B at the bottom, you can see the property there at 365 Hargrave.
So you classify this building as Class B and city classified as Class B building, yeah? Correct?
No, I classified it as a C.
On page number 4 of my brief,
Well, the city has classified this as a B. The Johnson Report has it as a D. I have it as a C. So here's the logic. I'll explain to you why I've done this. And I'll use as materials also some of your rent comparables. What I would say about this building is, and I've had the pleasure of walking through it twice already, is that it is a very basic building. The newer portion was meant to keep in line with the older portion. Again, the older portion is a historic building, so they wanted to keep it relative. It's a very modest building. It doesn't have much in terms of amenities on the main level. And what I would say in terms of distinguishing between a B class and a C class is that in the B class, you will see these amenities, okay? And we can go through each one of these: 330 St. Mary, 386 Broadway, 170 Flat Hargrave, 220 Portage, 363 Broadway, that is where the municipal board is actually located. One thing that you'll notice about these B-class buildings is they have amenities on the main level. They'll have restaurants, they'll have banks, they'll have grand lobbies. This is something that our subject does not have. It's a very basic building, and you'll notice it if you walk through it. So, in my opinion, it doesn't meet the criteria of a B-class building. And also in terms of location, the B-class buildings tend to be on better locations. So they'll be on what you can call a node. They'll be on the Broadways, they'll be on the Grahams, they'll be near Portage and Main. They won't be on Hargrave in, I forget what this neighborhood is called.
Central Park.
Central Park. Yes. Okay. So that is why I classify it as a C. Now, Johnson, I believe, has gone to the extreme in classifying it as a D, but that's probably because they've taken into account the historic nature of the building. I've classified it as a C, but in no way do I feel that this is actually a B-class building, and that's where I disagree with you.
Good.
on page, on page in the report, let's look on this Class C comparables. I don't know what page is it. I don't know, before Johnson report by then.
I think there's a page number on that, right?
Number 5, but it's,
It's not in order.
yeah.
I think you were just on it again. I just saw you flip through it. Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, you feel it's Class AC. On bottom, we have 37 comparable Class C buildings in downtown. This made $11.50, correct? How you came across $10 per square foot? What adjustment you made?
Next page.
I will probably talk to you. There we go.
365 Harvard. That's the same building.
$10.70. What is it? 70. Okay, you keep it from here. Okay.
I think there's only a $10 or 10 cent, 10, 11 cent difference between our rents.
On page 8, you did apply shortfall $11 per square foot. Do you have support evidence for it? Or it's
No, we used the 850.
Wait,
Do a shortfall.
it's the same, okay, sorry. So what is the difference? The difference has in vacancy 10.5%. Also, why came across a $10.5% vacancy within market
That's the C class.
by classification? C-class. You did apply, ask for 7.5% capitalization rate for this property.
Yes, that's,
And on page 12, you report briefs. We have a range for 4 properties between 6.49% to 7.22%, correct?
yeah. Well, the range is actually a little bit higher than that. But I mean, I would reference page 13. Again, we've used 7.5 to 8% for C-class buildings.
For classic. Okay. And also on page 15, you did apply capitalization rate for parking structures or 5 parking saying 7.5%. Why? It's no difference in capitalization rate, in your opinion?
No, there isn't. I think if you're going to buy this property, you're going to buy it at one capitalization rate. And the office building is the main property. The other two support it. It's not an extensively large parkade. And in terms of the parking stalls outside, it's negligible, 9 parking stalls. I don't know how you could give it a 4.5% capitalization rate. It's not a standalone parking lot. You can't hive off, a few hundred square feet of the building or sell it as market parking. So I don't see how I could have a 4.5% capitalization rate.
Okay, no questions.
Thank you. Questions from the panel? Mr. McFadden?
I have no further questions.
I have just one. Since you have been in the buildings, the historic building, has there been any interior renovations?
Yes. Since the new tenant took over INAC, Indian and Northern Affairs Canada, they did some tenant improvements, but again, that's included in the rent. Other than that, there used to be a parkade underneath the older building, but it was deemed not safe for parking.
So the parking holding up the building is deemed unsafe?
Yes. So what they're using it for now is storage. Now that is all included in the rent of the building. However, it is, again, in very poor condition. I think they have some metal filing cabinets down there with old furniture, that type of thing. It's not. They took us down there to look at it, but I wouldn't look at it as a leasable area or that you would, pay much for it. The newer half contains the underground parkade.
Okay, thanks. That was it.
Another question.
Would it be fair to say you've been in the building? Would it be fair to say that the tenant improvements are related primarily to security issues?
So one of the odd things about this building is that you'll notice that there's no pictures here.
Pardon me?
There's no pictures.
Right.
So when we were walking through the building, they gave us strict instructions that we were not allowed to take pictures of the building. So we had to put our cameras in our pockets and walk through. So there is security. There is a security at the front desk. I wouldn't say that it's tight security, but certainly you need proper access to get in there. Mm-hmm. You can't get in there if you don't have access passes. Mm-hmm. So all of that has been taken care of, yes. And through the front door, you're not going to get in unless the guard lets you in.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions either. Anything in summation? We'll take a short break and continue on. Call the meeting back to order. And yes, I will mention that this room is booked for 1 o'clock. Some of the things, although each building is different, some of the things are repeating. So we can, once we've heard things once or twice, we're pretty good fortunate with remembering. So we will carry on. Item number 5, 191 Lombard. When you're ready.
File number 19-3731, row number 13060725000, owner Second Limited. We are valuing the property as it stands of January 1st, 2020, based on economic condition April 1st, 2018. This appeal is respect to the amount of the assessed value only, based on evidence in this report. It is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018, $3,531,000. In that, the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property is located in downtown on page 12. Subject location map, air photos of property. The subject size has an irregular shape of 4,786 square feet. The 14th floor masonry improvements was constructed in 1911. Has former name of Union Tower Building and listed in building conservation list size September 12, 1983, historical building. The property has leasable area 42,544 square feet in basement area, I don't know, big farm area. On page 2nd, I posted property leases existing right now. On page 3, my office rent comparables for subject property. It's OT buildings. My 6 comparables located close to the subject property. You can see on map, on page 3 on map below. All building built, very old, built in 2005 or 1905 or 1912. I find leases from between 2016 to 2017, between $11 to $17.75. First line is our subject property. 2018, we assess overall $9.70 for 42,544 square feet. On page 4, our income summary. So our potential rent for 42,544 square feet, we apply overall $9.70. It will be $390,000. For this type of property, we applied 40% vacancy loss, and also we allowed for 2% expense allowance. It's not recoverable, include advertising, promotion, professional fees, structure repairs, and also shortfall allowance pays for food to account for not recoverable expenses during time of vacancy of $7.50. capitalization rate of the building 5.05%. On page 6, we will look in city of Winnipeg low and height between 5.5 to 9.05% rate for office building. 5.05, it's inside this range. On page 10, we did provide illustration of accuracy of model of 2% not recoverable expenses allowance used in mass appraisal model. For our 29 comparables shows the total media not recoverable expenses came across 1.06%, 2% very well supported. On page 15, income expenses measure provided to us. This all again presented on page 17 through 18. Let's start at this page 20, my comparables, quotas. My first comparables on page 20 on Lombard, three leases, 2016, 2017, range between $9.80 to $12. On page 21, old building on Main Street, built in 1905 for sale. Rent lease started 2017 for $15.50 and $70.75. On page 22, our Banatine Avenue building built 1906. Lease started in 2016. And it should be upward adjustment for timing, 2 years, and it was signed for $11. On page 23, Mazonki building from McDermott Avenue, built in 1912. We started 2017 for $11.35. For this property, we apply overall $9.70. It's very well support my comparables and fair. So our estimate value of subject property $3,531,000. It's fair. It should be confirmed. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Navarro?
I don't have questions.
Very good. Mr. McIntyre, any questions?
On the mailer, the actual NOI is $174,399, yet you're at $284,269?
Yes, and for this NOI, we need to take put back mortgage payment interest, 34,000 plus property tax. It will be NOI at 272,000, and we came across 284,000. It's very close.
Okay, that was all my questions.
Mr. McNabb?
I have no further questions.
Have you been in this building? No.
But I can see who
When was it last inspected?
Yes, in 2018, one of my colleagues did inside building, because we constantly move business around. If business vacate, a new business move in, we usually inspect.
Are there any comments on the condition of the building or anything?
It's old building, but I can see what happened, what type of renovation was done. I can look inside it.
I was thinking more of the assessor's comments, if there was any comments on there from the last inspection.
No, it's very well maintained building. It's old building, but very well maintained.
Thank you.
I see electrical work was done in 2018, 2019, it's post reference. And every time when new tenants move in, for example, we have new tenants in beginning in February 2018, Lawrence Financial Services move in with usually interior renovation done. It's very well maintained.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Navarro, we would like to hear from you.
The first thing that I'd like to say is that I'd like to accept the assessor's rate and revise my assessment.
Okay.
And that is the $390,294, and then apply the 14% vacancy loss. So that takes it to $335,653. I can work through the math and calculate the rest of the parameters, which are the ones that we are
The 7%.
the 7%, the 8.5% compensation rate. If you just give me a minute, I will do that.
Okay.
So we are accepting the $90.17 per square foot. That gives us a value of $390,294 on potential rent. We're applying a 14% capitalization vacancy loss to that, giving us an effective gross income of $335,653. We're applying 7% non-recovered expenses. That is $23,496, and $44,671 in shortfall.
44 what, sorry?
44,671. It's the same as the assessors.
Right.
That gives us a net operating income of $267,486. And we've applied an 8.50% capitalization rate, so that gives us an end value of $3,146,894, or $3,147,000.
Very good.
I don't think we need to cover anything else because we've touched upon the capitalization rate issues. It's the capitalization rate that we've gone with in terms of our chart here, which is for downtown D. We start at 850. 7% non-recoverable is consistent. We've gone with that. So everything else I think we've agreed upon.
Okay, we'll see if there's assessor has any questions.
No questions.
No questions, Mrs. McIntyre?
No questions.
I have no question.
Burke's Diamond still on the main floor? I think their sign is there by the picture.
Yeah, the signs.
Are they still around?
I didn't think that they were.
I didn't either.
That was my only question. Okay, very good. We'll move on to 225 Gary Street, item number 6.
If I may interject here, we are asking to withdraw this appeal.
Very good.
Do you have the form or do you?
I don't, I need that.
That will move us along to item number 7, 360 Portage Avenue.
File number 19-3150, roll number 12097692300, address 360 Portage Avenue, owner 4985371, Manitoba, Winnipeg. Their volunteer property assistance of January 1st, 2020, based on the economic condition of April 1st, 2018. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only. Based on evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018, $1,312,000. In that, the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property is located in downtown of the city. On page 2, photo of subject property. 360 Portage Avenue has several roll numbers. We are looking for roll number specific for a restaurant on main floor. Of my photos on page 2, more photos presented. Page 13 to 15. So specific role right now we are looking on main floor of a restaurant because this property has 9 roll numbers, but we're looking for specific main floor of this building with right now a restaurant.
What page is that?
It's page 25. It's Class A office building, but our role specific for main floor.
So it's just part of the building?
Part of building, yeah. Just main floor is part of the building, what we're looking right now.
And that's page 20?
15.
Page what?
15.
15.
Oh, wait, okay.
It's 9 roll numbers and 1 properties.
So it's basically that restaurant?
Just restaurant.
Just that restaurant that's on its
It's
own.
3,492 square feet of restaurant with a 44 square feet.
Thank you. Carry on.
And current tenants, Marcelo Market and Deli, lease started 2009. We step up in 2010. What reported to us, it's for $22.40. Same information was presented in Home Expenses mailer on page 16, 17. It's net rent fully recovered on page 16. You can see what presented to us. And rent on page 17. A step up start in 2010 and finish 2020. I estimate $22.40. On page 3, I have two rent comparables on page 3. It's just for office building A. On page 4, it will be specific restaurant rent comparables. Let's look for rent for Class A building. Subject property on first line, we did apply $26.07. We have represented 7 rent in Class A building on Main Street, Graham, Portridge, Main, St. Mary Avenue. It is building more older than subject property. They built in 1967 and 1990. Lease 2016-2017. It's between $18 to $22. So my media $20 per square foot. Subject is a restaurant. So I presented comparables of restaurant on page 4. My first comparables on Hargrave. Restaurant lease started 2010. Should be upward adjustment for timing for 8 years, but it was listed rent for $18.51. Restaurant on Gary Street, lease started 2014 and finish in 2024 for $30 per square foot. On St. Mary Avenue, lease started in 2013, should be upward adjustment for timing for 5 years, and it was listed for $22 per square foot. And map of location is a restaurant below table. On page 5, let's look how we estimate market and home of market value of this property. Leasable area 3,444 square feet. We did apply $26.07. Our potential rent just around $90,000. For for office building Class A, our vacancy was 7%. That is restaurant fully occupied. And we also allowed for for 2% not general 2% expenses allowance, not recoverable, to include advertising, promotion, professional fee structure, repairs. Also, as well, shortfall allowance per square foot to account for not recoverable expenses during time of vacancy, $13 per square foot. Our capitalization rate $6.0%. That's supported on page 7. Class A building in downtown, 6%. So our estimate value $1,312,000 should be confirmed. Should we look off my comparables? Let's look my comparables. I will speed up. On page 19, first we have map, which is road located on whole building with floor furniture map on page 20. How it's look inside, location of business. My first comparables on page 21, Main Street. It's very old building, 1967. It's old building, but leased for in 2016 for $18 per square foot. It should be upward adjustment. It's just office space for a building. On Graham Avenue for $18. On Portridge Avenue, page 23, for $21. On page 24 on Main Street, 2 leases between $20 and $22 per square foot. And Class A building on page 25 for $80.52. On page 26, start my restaurant rent comparables. So on Hargrave Avenue, we started in 2010 for $18.51, but should be upward adjustment for 8 years timing. On page 27, restaurant on Gary Street, lease started 2014 for $13. It should be still upward adjustment for timing, 4 years. On page 28, and St. Mary Avenue, lease started 2013. It should be upward adjustment for 6 years, 5 years, and for $22 per square foot. We did apply for subject property, $26.76, that it's fair and very well supported by my comparables. Based on the evidence in this report, in this assessor opinion, that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018, $1,312,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes. Your comparables on page 3, which rents support your position?
My position support on page 4 because it's specific rent, not it's restaurant comparables, because it's not office space, it's restaurant. But I showed what
Would you
rent.
categorize Marcello's as a restaurant?
Yeah, it's restaurant.
Or is there seating in it?
You can see the floor on page 20. What you can see is, yes, it's dining area. You can see they have dining area here. It's a restaurant on page 20.
I guess what I'm saying is that...
But
could
it's
this-
not specific office space. It's not office. It's a
Could
restaurant.
it be used as an office?
If it will be used as office, it's different.
But you categorized it as office space, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And your comparables for restaurants, I've never been in the Shark Club. I don't know what that is, but that is a restaurant?
Yes.
And the Pint is a restaurant. That is a standalone restaurant, correct? Like one building supporting a restaurant.
Yes, and when you open my page 4, Altis Restaurant, very close to the subject property.
And Tavern United, again, is a full restaurant. I believe it has a top deck too and the roof, right?
Yes.
Okay. And they added the roof at a later point. That was an improvement to it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But on Hargrave, I use only one floor, 6,000 square feet.
And are any of these LEED certified buildings? Super energy efficient buildings?
No, it's unique building.
Our subject is a unique building,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Okay. Now, looking at your actual office rents here, do you have any from main floors?
No, it's not main floors, because you can see units behind.
What's 360 main, number 5?
Number 5. You want to know who inside?
Yeah, do you know what that type of lease is?
1 second. It's a 700 Management Corporation, Fillmore Relay inside.
Okay, so it's not on it's on the 5th floor?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Because I was looking for leases and Class A building in 2016-17, not left to look what market.
Okay.
For 2018 reference rate.
And your capitalization rate is model-driven, correct?
Yes, and if you open page 7 for downtown A, with just 6%.
I have no issues
No
with it. It's
rate.
the same cap rate that we used. Okay, those are my questions.
Thank you. Panel members, Ms. McFadden?
The rent is a model-driven rent
Correct.
for a restaurant.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
For this building, yeah, for this hall.
I'm finished. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
If you turn to page 20, and you've got to kind of turn the page up, there's an equipment list associated with the floor plan.
Yes,
Now, you're classifying this as a restaurant,
yes, I present,
like
it's,
a full-service restaurant?
for me, it's a restaurant because they have sitting area here.
Yeah, but I'm looking at what they're offering. They're offering a deli area, a coffee area, and a retail area.
Yes, correct.
Kitchens come with restaurants anyway.
Mhm.
But would you find those in a full-service restaurant? Like a retail area?
It's, because it's located in Class A building, it's still Class A building office space, but it's a restaurant same time. It's difficult to defend, that's why I present two comparables, two range of comparables.
So is it a restaurant that's open on the weekends, or is this just designed to service
It's
the
open
building?
on weekend, it's constantly open.
Okay, that was my question.
Thank you. So on page 5, at the top it says OFA, but you said that the $26.07 is a rent used for restaurants.
Yes.
How about-
Defend, yeah.
How about the other parameters, the vacancy loss of 7%? Is that,
All these parameters apply for Class A building in downtown.
Class A building, but the rent is a rent that would be associated with a restaurant.
Yes. On main floor, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions, thank you.
Again, this is 360 Portage, and I'll skip through a lot of this and just go to the page 10. The rents here really don't support it. Again, this is a very unique building. The lease is not exceptionally old. It had a step up in February 16 at $22. We think that this is a good rent, is at market. The space itself is being used, I don't know what you would classify this as, a market slash, I don't even know what to, really, it's kind of a unique setup. There's one in our building also. There is a small area for sitting, has a retail area, has a sandwich station. I don't know if I would classify it as a restaurant though, but in the case of this building, this space could be used for many things. So we tend to think that the rent that's in place is at market, so we've applied a $22 per square foot rent on it. I think the rest of the parameters are all the same, except for the non-recovered expenses. So we come up with a value of $1,039,660. So $1,040,000 is what we are asking. I am open for questions.
Okay, we'll see if we can muster up some. No questions?
I have one.
Okay.
You're going to send me home? When I look at this floor plan, and this is kind of giving me concern, Is this space designed to serve the employees in the Hydro building?
Yes.
It's got a deli, it's got retail, it's got a coffee area.
I think they designed it with the, yes, with the hope that it could support that. There was also a restaurant in that area. I'm not sure if, in the building, I'm not sure if it's still there. I think the space could be used for many different uses, but I think it's supporting the building. So it's, I would classify it as a mixed use.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Ed?
I have
No
nothing.
questions? There's a restaurant at the back of the building. I forget the name of it.
Two of them, really.
Rudy's.
Play
Does anybody
over.
have that lease in their brief, or is that leased out? Or, no?
If
You
you
don't
could,
have that information? do you?
actually, if you turn to page 22 of my brief, you can get a sense of the areas here and the type of tenancies that the building will have. So there you can see on page 22, the dental office. There's also a gym in there. There's a foyer.
But this, okay, this
The
space.
problem that I have with using actual restaurant leases is that this isn't really a dedicated restaurant. And one of the comparables in particular, the one, the Pint, it is a standalone restaurant. It is one building that was a restaurant. I don't think it's there anymore, but it's a restaurant by itself. And I don't think that's really comparable to what we have here.
But you had said earlier that a B building, or, and especially, I guess you didn't say this, but I would say that A building would always have amenities on the main floor.
Absolutely.
So they want this type of thing, a restaurant. It's not like they're going to put desks down there.
And the amenities are there, and we're not denying that the amenities are there. That's why we have the pictures showing gym, dental office. This is a restaurant, or whatever we may call it. There is the clay oven, which is an actual restaurant. Those amenities there are set up to support the building. However, the building is also unique in its construction. It is a highly efficient building. It will have lower operating expenses. Those are older buildings, so they may be recovering something. They may have a higher rent simply because it's an older building, like the case of the Pint. That was a redevelopment project. So I imagine some of those costs were actually attributed to the redevelopment itself.
Is the whole, I understand that the Hydro building is a special LEED, but is this part of it as well?
The whole building is LEED certified. Yeah.
But your clients own this section of the building, right?
Hydro owns the entire building. These are just leases within the building. You get what I mean?
How come we're here with talking about this assessment with ownership being
Manitoba Hydro.
498? So that 4985371 is Manitoba Hydro?
We have Manitoba Hydro, but I don't know what the assessor has under their ownership.
They have
They
a
have-
limited company.
Limited company.
Yeah, I'll have to check up on that to see whether they're actual self-contained units. My understanding is that everything in that building was leased.
But they have separate roll numbers, correct? There's
Yeah,
just
it's
not-
separate
That's
roll
why we're
numbers.
looking at this separately,
Yeah.
because there's more than one roll
9
number
roll
in the
numbers
building.
down
9
here.
roll numbers in one building.
Are they all the same owner?
You can see it on page 5, actually. I have a chart. So here in the property description, halfway through there, you can see as a result of the building efficiencies, utility costs are approximately 30 to 40% of those for a typical office tower.
It is 4985371, it's Manitoba Limited, it's landlord who leases premise for tenants Marcella Market Dailies. I have specific lease in place. Premise part of the ground floor Manitoba Hydra Place, Winnipeg, Manitoba. So landlord, it's this numbered company for this specific premise.
Every tenant has a different phone number. Every single tenant.
And it's a separate legal entity
Yeah.
for every tenant.
And landlord
Tenant
address
deal.
820 Taylor Avenue.
Okay, that's all my questions. Is there any summation in the part that you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Navarro? That concludes the hearing.